All right, let's start. You're late. Thank you very much. Joanne has brought us an attendance sheet, so please feel free to write your name at the top. You can download it. Thank you. So this is English presentations for global communication, right? Yeah? How many of you taken Ohio courses before in the past, like TESOL, TED? You did? Good. So do you find this class easier or more difficult? It's much easier. It's difficult? No, I think this class is much easier. It's really well designed, and you don't have to learn a lot of new vocabulary. Like in TESOL and TED, there's a lot of linguistics vocabulary. I think this class is easier, which means that the midterm is going to be easier too, all right? So you can relax a little bit. If you've taken TED and TESOL and you did okay, you're gonna be fine, okay? Today, we're gonna go over from week 1 to week 5, okay? I'm gonna shut this window because it's a little loud outside. So we're gonna go from week 1 to 5. There we go. On the midterm, if you've taken TET and TESOL before, this midterm is very similar. It's the same type of questions. There are multiple choice questions. There are true and false questions. And something you should look for while we're reviewing today, there are questions where you have to match what comes first, what comes second, what comes third. So every time you see a list up here, like this is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, try to take notes or highlight it if you have the lecture notes. Because those type of things will be on the test. Because they'll ask you what is the first step in making a presentation? Or what are 3 things you need to think about when making a presentation, or making an outline, or making lecture notes, all right? So we'll ask you questions like this. So if you highlight all the things that have steps or a list, you'll be okay, all right? If you have any questions at any time, just raise your hand. We'll stop and we'll talk about it, all right? This is the time to get some feedback. One drawback about taking classes online is you can't interact with the professor immediately. Professor Bukowski, Don Bukowski, is very clear, but you can't ask her any questions. So I'm here, you can ask me questions, all right? If you don't understand a word or a term, just ask, because probably someone else has the same question, all right? So we can just talk about it. So be very relaxed, all right? Good? Yeah? Okay. We'll just go from week 1 to 5. For the first hour, I'd like to get up to the end of week 3. If we don't make it, we'll do it in the second hour, okay? No big deal. I want to take a break at 11, okay? 10 minutes, all right? And then at the end, we're going to have a little question and answer. You can ask me about anything. This, right now, what we're going to review is Don Bukowski's section. We have the lecture, the main lecture, right, in this class, and then we have a language section, right, and then tutorials. The tutorials is so much, we can't review it. And the test is going to focus mainly on the main lecture. There will be questions from the language section and the tutorial, okay? There will be questions from that, but it's just too much to cover. The language section is pretty beginner to intermediate, right? And there's so much, we'd have to have 5 review classes to talk about how to introduce yourself, how to introduce your topic, you know? So if you have any questions about that, save it for the Q&A, but we're not going to review that today, okay? Yeah? Anyone tired? Please don't fall asleep. All right, so let's go start with week 1. Intro and types of presentations. Remember this week, you really should pay attention to the types of presentations because it might be on the exam, all right? Basic components of a presentation. What are the basic components of a presentation? Do you guys remember? What are the basic components? Anyone? No? Were you sleeping during that section? What does component mean? What does component mean?
Element.
An element, an aspect, right? Are you looking at the lecture notes? You're smart. All right, what give me one? Preparation. Let's see. Oh wait, we're not there yet. Wait 1 second. 5 questions to ask yourself when preparing a presentation. So these are the things we're going to talk about in week 1. 5 questions to ask yourself when preparing a presentation. Planning and preparation for a successful presentation. And presentation types. Persuasive. Okay, basic components of a presentation. Go. What's one?
Planning and preparation.
I'll give you a hint. Who? Yeah, so these are the things you need to think about, the components of your presentation. Who? What else? There's the 5. Where? Who? What?
Where, when, how.
Who, what, when, where, why, how. But here we leave how out. Because how is what you're learning now, I guess. Alright, who, what, when, where, and why. So why are you giving a presentation? Where are you giving a presentation? When will you be giving a presentation? Is it going to be in the morning, in the evening? Is it going to be after dinner and drinks? Is it going to be right after lunch? What you're going to be presenting and who you're going to be presenting to. It really does make a difference. All right. 5 questions to ask yourself when preparing a presentation. Does anyone remember what the 5 questions are? This is the type of thing that might be on a midterm. All right? So they might ask you which one of the 4 are not one of the 5 questions to ask yourself when preparing. You know those questions? There's like which one is not a question to ask yourself. Does anyone remember what the 5 questions are? No? Good. Thank you for your honesty. Anyone? What do you think? What's one question you should ask yourself? Yeah, what question? When you're preparing, you're like, what's a question? Who am I? Okay. Who am I? I think that's a big question. Yeah. Who am I? What makes me happy? That's a good question. Anybody? Do you know? What? Genius, right here. Who is the audience? Do you have your lecture notes? Okay, good. Yeah, good. That's smart. Okay. Who is your audience? Good. What else? That's one. What?
What's the problem?
What's the problem? Right? Okay, good. Let's look. Who am I compared to the audience? So who am I is more of a philosophical question, like what makes me happy? I'm a human. I'm a man from the United States. But who am I compared to the audience? Because maybe you're an expert in a field and your audience is ignorant. So you really need to know that. Like if your audience doesn't know anything about what you're presenting, you have to pick different types of language. But if your audience are all experts, you don't have to use simple language. You can use more technical terms and things like that. So you really need to think about your audience when you're deciding what to put into your PowerPoint and what types of images to use. You okay? Yeah? Did you have breakfast? Did you? You look tired, you okay? You want some coffee? Alright. Who is my audience? Who am I compared to my audience? Am I presenting on a problem? And if so, what is it? So am I presenting a problem? Is this a problem I'm trying to solve? Often you won't be, but if you are, really make sure that you know what your problem is and that it's very clear, right? Clarity is really important. Good. If there's a problem, what caused it? And you can just say, it was Unmi's fault. She did it, you know? And you can blame somebody. No, don't blame, but figure out what the problem is and then why it happened. Because then you can figure out solutions, right? If you can figure out a problem and then solutions. It's for you. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what is the solution to the problem? So if you can figure out the solution beforehand, that's good, you know? But you may not be able to come to a really clear solution, right? So you might need to just have an idea of what you think is a good idea. Because maybe you're brainstorming with a group. Like, okay, now, during the Q&A, let's figure this out, right? So if you can start to think of the solution beforehand, that's good. But if you can't, you can use your audience. All right. Being the role presenter, you need to be able to answer all 5 of these questions. It's true. Because when you come up to the front and you're presenting, you're in charge of the room and the environment. If you don't know this stuff, you're wasting people's time, right? You look unprofessional, you don't look prepared, and you honestly are not going to be very confident. You're gonna be really like, oh shit, what am I doing here? So you need to really prepare and practice, right? So you don't waste people's time. Am I wasting your time? No? Okay. Good. Alright, answering these questions is the first step of planning and preparing. Yeah, exactly. So you answer the questions, right? Good. You know one nice thing, because you have these lecture notes, next time you have a presentation, or if you have to give a presentation, I would just go back to week 1 and just answer all those questions. Honestly, it helps. So take some time to really focus on what the purpose or problem of the presentation is. If you have time before your presentation, it's really nice to just think about it as you walk down the street, as you go to the coffee shop. Just write down like a main idea. What's the problem I'm trying to fix? What's the purpose? And just think about it slowly. And that way you can get ideas. Unfortunately, we usually have to do a presentation quickly, like next week or tomorrow. So we don't always have that luxury. Okay, the point you make in your presentation has to be clear and easy for the audience to understand. This is really important, and it might be something to be on a midterm. Clarity is really important. It needs to be clear and easy. You're not up here to impress people with your knowledge. You're up here to communicate, right? So you need to make it as simple as possible without making it stupid or dumbing it down, all right? So you need to make it simple and easy. So everything that you'll talk about in here will be ways to make it easy for you and for your audience to communicate, all right? Am I going too fast? I talk really fast. If you want me to slow down, just raise your hand and I will slow down, all right? But if not, I'm going to continue to talk quickly. Good. Week 1, we're still here. Once you've spent some time narrowing down the focus, it's time to brainstorm some supporting ideas. All right, if you go back here, where's that? So the point of your presentation, okay, has to be clear. And then you can narrow down the focus. So sometimes people like give you like, what time is it? 20 minutes late. Yeah, don't worry, come on, please. You can narrow down the focus, right? And then you can brainstorm ideas, right? What type of ideas are you going to brainstorm? What does that mean? What does brainstorm mean? Anybody? What?
Come up ideas.
Yeah, just come up with ideas. Anything that pops into your head, like a storm, just write it down, write it down. I like to brainstorm on paper. Some people, if they're more tech savvy than me, they really like to brainstorm on a computer. But I like to actually scratch out on paper. It gives me more of like nice feedback, you know? It helps me. It makes me feel more creative. Because I just write it all down, it's really ugly, and then I can put it into my computer. But to each his own. All right. Take notes of these ideas and rate them according to their importance to the main topic, right? So you brainstorm all these ideas, and then you have your main purpose, right? Your topic. You have all these ideas, and then you're like, okay, this one is probably the most important idea. This is the second most important. This idea sucks. This is really stupid. Throw it away. Cross, cross, cross. All right, you just go through that. But brainstorming, there's no bad ideas when you're brainstorming. Write down whatever pops up, and then later edit it, right? Because if you're editing and brainstorming at the same time, it'll slow down the creative process. All right? One way to organize this is rate them according to relevance. Okay, how much to rate your topic? That's what I just said. Okay. Oh, what ideas do you need to include in the presentation? So really think about this. If I'm trying to communicate a point, what do I absolutely have to say? What do I have to say so that I can communicate my idea? All right? So I communicate my main purpose. So you write down what is essential, right? Good. Okay, and this is another one. What do you want to cover, even though it may not be necessary? Let's say our presentation is like, what's our presentation? The purpose of my presentation, it's a persuasive presentation. It's that ice cream is better than cake, right? So that's the purpose of my presentation. So if I'm brainstorming some ideas, what would some ideas be that could support that main purpose, the main idea of my presentation? Who can tell me? It tastes better. Ice cream tastes better. Okay, it tastes better. Good. What else? Boring. Wait, why is ice cream better than cake?
Cheaper than
It's cheaper. Yeah, it's cheaper. It tastes better. Wow, we got 2. Good. What else?
Colder?
It's colder. It's more refreshing in the summer, right? What do we want to talk about even though it may not be necessary? So what do I want to talk about? Maybe there's something I want to add. The things you want to add that aren't necessary are probably what will make your presentation interesting, right?
Your story.
Yeah, your story. Maybe I can add my story about when I was a little boy, I used to eat ice cream, my grandmother gave it to me, makes me want to cry, something like that. All right? You can add things like that. Okay, good. What should you not include in the presentation, but be prepared to talk about if someone asks a question? So if I'm persuasive, I don't want to really say too many negative things about ice cream, but there's going to be a Q&A at the end. So I have to prepare myself to talk about the fact that ice cream melts, all right? And you have to have a refrigerator to keep ice cream. Because I know that people are going to say, no, cake is better because you don't have to put it in the freezer, right? So I need to prepare myself to answer these questions beforehand, right? Yeah? All right, good. Decide to organize information to decide what is necessary and what is additional. So you have the necessary stuff that you have to say and the additional stuff. The additional stuff could be the story about my grandmother giving me ice cream. But the necessary stuff to be persuasive is that it's refreshing, it tastes better. What was the other one? I can't remember. It's cheaper, right? So those are essential. Good. When focusing on the purpose of the problem of the presentation, consider the audience. All right, so if I'm convincing people ice cream is better than cake, and I'm convincing junior high school students, it's going to be different than if I'm convincing executives at a company who I'm trying to sell my ice cream to, right? Totally different. So you have to consider your audience. Your audience will really help you make decisions on how to present and what to present, right? Consider your audience. Good. What are they expecting from your presentation? This is important too, because you have to think, okay, so these people, they have the name of my presentation, or maybe they don't even have the name, but what do they expect from me? Because you want to come in and meet their expectations, because they come because they want information. So you have to think, okay, what type of information will my audience want, right? It'll help you prepare your presentation. Good? Yeah? Are they experts in the field? We talked about this. If they're experts, it's going to change the vocabulary that you use, right? Think about the context of the presentation. Context, what does that mean? Context. Anyone, what does context mean? Yeah, it's a big word, context. One nice thing about this class is, from week 1 to week 14, you're going to be saturated with the same words over and over and over again. It's really impressive that you're taking a lecture that's all in English. There's no Korean or anything. So you're going to passively learn a lot of vocabulary, all right? And if you study hard, maybe you'll learn a lot more. Context is an important word. It will come up a lot. Context. No? I use slang when I'm speaking English in one context, and then I use more professional language in another context. Setting, yeah, there's a different setting. So maybe the context could be you're giving a lecture in that lecture hall, the giant lecture hall there, right? Because that's going to be a totally different lecture than if you're giving it in a small room like this, right? So context, where it is set, the different situation, right? The situation and environment is the context, all right? A good way to learn vocabulary is to look at the context of the sentence, right? So it's where it is placed. If you look at a new vocabulary word, it helps you learn it if you can read the sentence, the context, okay? The situation around it, context. Good. Where is the presentation? Big room, small room. When is it? How formal is it? Formal really will help you make decisions. You know, we have these different, later in this week, do you remember they go over like PowerPoint and Prezi and all these different apps that you can use to make your presentation? Depending on how formal it is, it will help you decide whether or not to use some of them. Because some of them are only for informal presentations, right? So formality is really important to think about. You also need to think about your reason for the presentation, all right? Good. Structure of a presentation. What's the structure? You guys remember? Anyone? Structure. Structure. What does structure mean? Yeah, structure. Outline. Genius. Okay, an outline. What comes first? What comes second? What comes third? What comes last? The structure, right? So you need the structure every time. When you write an essay or you write a paper, there's a structure, right? Like you have the thesis statement, the opening paragraph, then you have the body, then you have the conclusion, right? Same thing with a presentation. You think of it as telling a story, right? You have the beginning, the middle, and then the end, right? So you need a structure. Good. Creating a structure is an important step because it's where you make your ideas flow well together. Same thing with telling a story or communicating. You have to think what idea comes first and what this idea will lead to this idea and this idea will lead to this idea, and it makes a nice smooth structure, right? Okay, speak coherently and outline your ideas in a logical sequence, yeah. The outline given can be used for most presentations even though it can vary from one field to another. Yeah, the outline they give in week 1 is very basic, extremely basic outline that you can use for any presentation, okay? So that you can use this for anywhere from a classroom to a boardroom for businesses. Okay, step 1, an introduction to yourself, your topic and your presentation. Does anyone remember what type of vocabulary that is it Professor Park? I think Professor Park uses for introducing yourself. What type of expressions you can use for introducing yourself? That might be on the midterm. So that's the type of thing in the language section. They might ask you which of these are a way to introduce yourself at the beginning of a presentation. So look at that, all right? So we have 2 lecture notes, right? We have this one, and then we have the language section. So look at the language section, ways of introducing. Just go over it, all right? Yeah. During the Q&A, I'll look at the midterm and we can talk about that as well. The body of your presentation. What is the body? Yeah, this is your body, right? This is your body. Yeah, it's the main. So I have arms, right? This is my body. It's the same thing. You have like the beginning of the presentation, the body. It comes from the same word as your body here. So the main part, the most important part is the body. So you have an introduction, and then you have the body of your presentation. Okay, good. The main topics, yeah, someone said main, of your presentation. You should be logical. What does logical mean? What? Logic, what is logic? Rational, logical. It needs to make sense, right? So if you're talking about one thing here, and then you jump over here, talk about one thing here, over here, people can't understand what you're talking about. So you need to be logical and coherent so that you can communicate well, right? So you need to really make sure you refine your thoughts, logical, so that your audience can easily follow along, all right? You want to make it as easy as possible without making it boring, right? Don't make it boring. All right. Step 3 is the what? Conclusion. That's easy, right? So you have an introduction, body, conclusion. These 3 steps might be on the midterm, all right? So they might ask you, what are the 3 steps, okay? So anything that has numbers, first, second, third, review it. It could be on the midterm, okay? All right. Yeah, the conclusion. You summarize the important points of your presentation. So it's similar that you have the introduction where you introduce it, right? In the body, you go over all of your main points and give supporting ideas why these are your main points. And then the conclusion, you go back over your main points in a clear and shorter way, right? More concise, all right? At the end of the presentation, there's usually a question and answer session or a Q&A session, right? This is where you can cover any points that you might not have covered in the presentation. This is important. So the Q&A section, so there you have a certain amount of time, right? So you can only put in the most important things in your presentation. Okay? Someone asked on the Q&A board, you might have seen it, like, what's the correct amount of time for a presentation? Every presentation is different. And usually they're going to give you a certain amount of time to present. So if you only have 30 minutes and you practice and practice and practice, you're like, I got to take this out of the presentation, I got to take this out. Well, you can use the Q&A time to talk about that as well, all right? So you can save it for Q&A. All right, the content of the presentation. What does the content mean? What's content mean? You know, content. The things that are included in it, right? Just the things inside. So the content of kimchi jjigae is what? What's the content of kimchi jjigae? Kimchi. What else? Chamchi. Oh no, good. Yeah, that's good. Chamchi. No pork. No tueji. No. Can you do tueji and chamchi? No, you can't. Can you do it? That's weird, right? Difficult. Okay, no tueji. Next time. So we have kimchi, tuna. What else? Water. Anything else? Sugar. Not fruit juice. Sugar. White sugar or brown sugar? White sugar. Okay. Anything else? Gochugaru? A little more. Make it spicy. All right. What? Tubu tuna? Yeah, that works. Yeah. So tofu and tuna. Good. So all these things we put in, these are the contents. All right. That's the contents of the stew. All right. So you need to think about the contents of your presentation. 3 things to keep in mind. What does keep in mind mean? Remember. Genius. All right, good. 3 things to remember or to think about while you're making a presentation or giving a presentation. Be clear. Oh, remember when I said if it ever says anywhere 3 things or 4 things or 6 things, it might be on the midterm. All right? Anything that says numbers, so highlight all those. All right, be clear. Have a focus. The worst thing is to watch a presentation and the person's all over the place. If you don't have a clear focus of what your aim is, what you want to do with the presentation, you can't communicate it. And you're going to bore people, right? Be simple. Yeah, a lot of people want to impress everyone and make them, oh wow, you speak English so well, you're so smart. But no, you just want to communicate your ideas, right? Be simple. Be clear, have a focus, be simple. Timing. We were talking about this before. You get timing beforehand. You need to practice, all right? Because if you go overtime, people get anxious. They feel uncomfortable, right? So you need to practice it so you can finish like 1 or 2 minutes under the time, every time. It needs to be finished beforehand. I didn't practice this today, so we might be a little late. It's 2 hours! I can't practice this, I don't have time. All right. In most situations, such as conferences and business meetings, the presenter is giving a time limit. All right? So you need to practice. What else? Someone else asked this on the Q&A board. Do you guys see this? It's better for your presentation to be shorter than longer. As soon as your presentation starts going over the time, people are going to notice. They're going to look at the clock. They're like, oh, it's 2 minutes. 2 minutes, my 2 minutes. I want my 2 minutes back. People are really resentful if you go over. Even if they're enjoying it, they want their time. So it's better to end 5 minutes early than 5 minutes late. Less is more, right? Less is more. Leave your audience always wanting to hear more. If you say everything you have to say, then they're not interested anymore. They forget about it. But if they still have some questions or some interest, it's good for the Q&A time too. All right. Yeah, people become anxious, right? You might even get stopped. That would be the worst. If you have a presentation and you've really made your introduction, your body, and your conclusion, but you never get to the conclusion because like, sorry, no time. Your presentation is a failure. Go home, cry, eat some ice cream. It's better than cake. All right, good. Visual aids. So now we talked about the preparation, right? The structure, you know, first, second, third. And now we're going to create a visual aid. It's an aid, right? What does aid mean? Help. Yeah, so it's something visual that will help us, all right? It's not your presentation. Some people think their PowerPoint is their presentation. The PowerPoint is not your presentation. It's just a helper. It supports you, right? Good. Make sure you use visual aids that are well organized, simple. Here's that word again. Simple. And concise. What does concise mean? That's a big word. It's a complicated word. Does anyone know? Concise. What does concise mean? What is it? No. Maybe she's talking about lunch. I want to eat kimchi chicken. Is that what you said? No. Concise just means condensed and exact, right? If you can say something in 3 sentences, that's a long time to say one idea. So instead of 3 sentences, get rid of the last 2 and make the one sentence very clear. It makes it concise. So it's condensed and clear, concise. Short and to the point. Yeah, short and to the point. They're very direct. All right. Okay, you shouldn't rely on visual aids during your presentation. This is another type of thing that might be on the midterm. So what are the aspects of a visual aid? You know, they'll say that they need to be simple, they shouldn't be relied on, okay? So this is important. But they should be clear and easy to read. So charts and graphs can help. So your visual aid is for the audience, it's not for you, right? Maybe you'll have a chart that you'll refer to, but usually it's just things to help the audience picture the image that you have in your head, right? Or maybe you have a question. Unlike today, the PowerPoint I'm using is terrible for a presentation, right? It has way too much information, but I think it might help you guys, all right? Have someone read over your visual aid to make sure it doesn't have any spelling mistakes or grammar errors. This is really important because if you have an audience of like 20 people, one person is gonna be like, why is there a comma there? Well, why are they using a period? You know, and then they start thinking about that and they don't think about your presentation. And you know people like that, right? And then they'll probably talk to the person next to her, did you see that she spelled that wrong? You know? Not a good idea. All right, so really make sure someone else proofreads it. All right, I don't care if your English is perfect, you're going to make mistakes. So you need a second set of eyes to help you, right? All right. Practice with your visual aids so everything goes smoothly. Yeah, you have to practice using them together, right? When you time your presentation, you're gonna time it, practice with your visual aids. Oh yeah, sorry. Remember, if your visual aid is too complicated, it can distract from your presentation, right? So it can actually make your presentation worse and not better, right? Okay, 4 presentation types. This is a midterm type thing, right? This might be a midterm. What are the 4 presentation types? Does anyone remember one? I just talked about it. Ice cream is better than cake. What? Persuasive, good, persuasive. What else? Informative, persuasive. What else do we have? Demonstrative? Demonstrative, demonstrative, yeah. You demonstrate something, yeah. What else? Decision making. Yeah, decision making. So those are the 4. Good. If you can't remember them, make some notes. All right. So those are the 4. Informative presentations. What do informative presentations do? A lecture. Yeah, a lecture might be, like right now, this is informative. With a terrible PowerPoint, sorry. Informative presentation. What else? What's in an informative presentation? It's sort of in the word, information. Yeah. So informative is you're just giving lots of information, right? To inform the audience or further explain. You're explaining something, a topic. Good. Have lots of examples and logically explain the topic. Yeah, if you're doing an informative thing, examples are really good, all right? Examples really help. So, because if you're just giving information, an example will help different people figure out exactly what you're saying, all right? Right? No? The basic components of an informative presentation. An attention-grabbing statement, all right? So if you have a statement that really grabs people's attention at the beginning. So you can start strong and you make a statement, right? Introduction, of course. The body, same thing. Introduction, body, conclusion. Very easy. Introduction, body, conclusion. It's an important thing to remember. Introduction, body, conclusion. Good. Residual message. What does residual mean? Okay, kimchi chicken, right? We have the contents of the kimchi chicken, right? The contents, the thing we put it in. And then we all eat the kimchi chicken, right? And it's empty. Everything's gone, and you put the pot here. The stuff that's stuck to the side of the pot, that's the residue. It's the stuff that's left behind. So when you watch a presentation and then you leave, whatever sticks in your mind is the residual stuff, all right? It's the stuff that stays with you. It's not the main thing, it's the stuff that stays with you. So you might have a message that you want to give your audience. It's the message you want them to think about as they leave. It's the residual message, all right? So it's not the main thing, it's the stuff that sticks. Good. Examples. Lectures, yes, good job. Informative lectures. Research presentations, lectures, good. Sales report presentations. So maybe if you're a business and you're talking about the last quarter, that's informative, good. Persuasive presentations. When would you use a persuasive presentation? Anyone? Sales, yes, number one. Yeah, I'm selling my ice cream, good. Be enthusiastic and present with excitement and emotion, all right? So if you're persuading somebody, you have to be enthusiastic, right? Enthusiasm is important for every presentation. If you're not excited by what you're saying, your audience will not be. But very, very important is in a persuasive, you have to be the most enthusiastic, right? Good. State what the problem is. Oh, emotion. You'll also probably use more emotion in a persuasive presentation than any other presentation. All right? State what the problem is and how you tried to solve this problem and the steps you have taken clarifying and simplifying the topic, including a story or an anecdote. What's a story, an anecdote? It's just a story. Yeah, it's just a story about a certain thing. So my anecdote could be like my story could be about my grandmother giving me ice cream, right? And how my sister always wanted cake, so we never had ice cream. Only my grandmother gave it to me. You just do something like that. All right, it's a story. Story helps people remember and visualize. All right, and then you tell the audience to take action, right? To do something like get this ice cream. It's great, right? This ice cream's good. Eat ice cream. Don't eat cake, right? Don't eat cake. Good. A business conference call. It'll often happen, a conference call. Or a conference call, or maybe a sales meeting. Good. Demonstrative or demonstrative presentation. What's this? How-to presentations, right? So you're explaining something. Yeah, maybe you have new employees and you're explaining to them how to use the computer system, right? You just explain. Probably not going to be too emotional, unless you're like, I hate this system. But if you do it like this, it becomes easier, right? So less emotion, right? Okay, demonstrate how to do something. The basic components. What are the basic components? The basic parts. Anybody? What are the parts? Introduction. Yeah, they're all the same. Introduction. What else? An overview, which is part of the introduction. Yeah. The body and describing how you have to use. This is a little different, where you can say, okay, you can use this way. You're demonstrating, and then if you want to do something different, you can adapt and change. All right. So adaptation is kind of important with demonstration. Other available options, you explore all the options of what you can do with whatever you're explaining, and then extra information you want to add, questions, the conclusion. Because in a demonstration, you need to save time for questions before the conclusion, right? Because that helps you see what people don't understand. Oh, they don't understand what I'm saying. I'm not communicating well. And then you can use the questions that are asked and maybe put them in your conclusion, right? Good. A teaching workshop, only one example. Teaching workshop, right. You can be teaching new employees. Decision making. Okay, which other type of presentation is decision making similar to? Informative, what? Persuasive. Yeah, persuasive and decision making are similar, right? That might be a question on a midterm. I don't know. Similar to persuasive presentations, but you have a result that will occur. The difference is that you have a result. A decision will be made, right? There's a decision. So decision making. So you want the audience to make a decision, to decide to do something. Tell your audience what they should do, why they should do it, and how they should do it. So what, why, and how. All right? or what to do if they don't take your suggestion. Because, hello, 50 minutes? Oh, 45. It's okay, she was 20 minutes late. It's all right. All right, good. Okay, it follows the basic structure. What's the basic structure of a presentation? Introduction, body, what? Okay, good. Remember, introduction, body, conclusion. And then you won't have to look at your lecture notes and sheet. All right, good. Example, introducing a product and telling people how the product could help them. All right, helping them to decide if they should buy the product or not. All right. Oh! Ooh, already week 2. So anyway, those are the types of presentations, okay? It's good to know those types. It'll probably be on the midterm, maybe. Or it might be on the quiz and then put it up on Monday, all right? And speaking of the quiz, where am I going? Speaking of the quiz on Monday, the quiz will be the exact same type of questions that are on the midterm, all right? Same type. If you take the quiz and you feel comfortable answering those types of questions, you're going to be fine on the midterm. All right, I took the midterm, sent it in, and I made 10 questions. It's an open book quiz, right? When you log in, as long as you don't answer all the questions and hit submit, you can go back and forth until you hit submit. But if you hit submit, you can't change your answers, all right? So if you want, you can write down your answers on a piece of paper and then put them in at the very end, all right? Everyone should get 100% on the quiz, if you have time. If you don't have time, you're working late, it's okay, just answer it, all right? But if you want to and you have time, you can get 100% on the quiz, all right? Good. Researching and writing presentations. All right, so this is how you create a presentation, you get the information for it, right? Week 2. You guys okay? Yeah? We're gonna take a break in 10 minutes. I knew I couldn't finish week 3. I knew it. All right, 10 minutes. Okay, selecting your topic for a presentation, right? They talk about that. Researching. Writing the presentation and using all of your sources. So you're gonna research, get sources for your presentation, all right? And then use the sources, right? Making your presentation. All right, these are the things we're going to talk about. Selecting your topic for a presentation. Who, what else?
Why?
Consider your audience. Yeah. Who, what, when, where, why, how, right? Know how. Yeah, consider your audience. Pick something that's engaging for them and will keep their attention the whole time. So consider their needs and interests. We talked about this in week 1, right? You really need to think about your audience and what will make them interested. Junior high school students are very different than businessmen, right? Consider your audience. What's? What are the what's? You want to know? Give me a what. A what? What?
Purpose.
What? Purpose. Yeah, make sure you have a clear purpose. A clear purpose. You can select a topic or write a good presentation if you don't know the purpose. Yeah. What else? Do you have another one? Physical arrangements. What is the length of time you're given for your presentation? All right, we talked about this in week 1, right? So the physical arrangements, length of time, what technology and equipment you can use, right? Are you going to have a computer? Are you going to have a large projector? Are you going to have a television, you know? One thing I will say that's not here, if you use a projector like this, please don't turn the lights off. Because if you turn the lights off like this, oh, I want to take a nap, right? Everyone wants to go to sleep. So if you can keep the lights on, please keep the lights on. Because then, even if someone wants to sleep, they won't do it because they feel guilty. When you turn the lights off, like, oh, I can take a nap. It's okay. All right? So keep the lights on and make sure they're not falling asleep. All right? All right. What? You have a question? Oh, nobody has questions. If you have questions, we can stop. It's pretty easy, right? This is so much easier than TESOL and technology. So much easier. Right? All right. So what technology can you use? Is it a TV? Is it a projector? What? So find out beforehand. All right? What about a handout? Are you expected to provide one? I'm sort of anti-handouts. I hate it when people give their whole PowerPoint. Have you done the colloquium here? And they give like a whole PowerPoint. It's like half a tree. They're killing forests for nothing. Especially when you can have it on your phone, you know? Yeah. Oh, I hate handouts. But anyway, if you need to use one, you can use one. All right. Are you supposed to leave time at the end of your presentation for questions? Those are simple ideas to think about. But on the test, some people might be, what are the whats of a presentation? All right? Or what is not a what of a presentation? It's the type of question that may be asked. Researching. What does researching mean? Researching, what does that mean? To research. What? Yeah, to find things. You're finding things. You're finding things. You're looking for things. You're looking for information that will help support your presentation and make your presentation interesting and informative. Investigate something thoroughly in an organized way. So one nice thing about the second week is it kind of gives you a frame, a structure of how to investigate things and how to do research. Because it's good to have a clear idea of what the steps are when you're doing a presentation. All right, research on what others have already learned about a topic. That's the best. So you go steal from other people, all right? You take other people's information and you use it to make your own. Why is she leaving? No, it's okay. She told me she was leaving early. You have TESOL? TESOL class? That class is really hard. Good luck. Bye. Everyone say bye. Bye. Are you embarrassed? Don't be embarrassed. Thanks for coming. All right, so where were we? Yeah, so look at other people's research. Look what other people are saying about what you are presenting, right? A great place to start is the internet or the library. That might be a question. Where should you start your research when researching a presentation? That might be a question on the midterm. So internet, anyone can publish anything. Yeah, so that's the downside of the internet. Because on the internet, you don't know if it's like some 12-year-old boy posting in his underwear eating cereal, you know? So you don't know how accurate the information is. But if you go to the library and you have a published book, they probably have lots of editors and it was reviewed, you know it's probably more reliable. But the internet is a great resource, you know? So it's better to start with a library if you're doing research. The 6 steps for doing good research. The 6 steps. That's a midterm question. What are the 6 steps? Anyone? Do you know? You're late. Do you know one of the 6 steps? No? You have to follow along in lecture notes. It's okay. I'll let you know. First step, explore an idea. Do some first searches to see what's out there. Yeah, so you can just type in your idea into Google. What pops up, right? Easy research. Just see what comes up. All right? Or an encyclopedia. That's an old form of Google. You guys know what encyclopedias are? Yeah? You have a dictionary, and then you have an encyclopedia, right? Okay. It tells you lots of information about a certain topic, right? Good. There are lots of good online encyclopedias. Find background information. So explore an idea, find background information. So you can use a specialties encyclopedia. There are a lot of encyclopedias, and some of them cater or specialize in certain areas. So you can go to those specialized encyclopedias online. And a lot of them are free. Or a specialty dictionary. Because every dictionary is different, right? When I'm working or I'm making a lecture or a class, I usually use like 5 or 6 dictionaries at one time, just comparing and contrasting, right? Because some people can really explain an idea better than other people. And some people have better examples. So I think it's really good to use multiple resources when you're making a presentation. That way you can steal, and you can steal the best. All right? Good. Explore an idea, find background information, gather more information. Use a library to find books on your topic, right? Learn some reliable information to inform the rest of your research. Good. Gather more. Locate current research. Especially if you're giving a research presentation, you'll want to locate current research. Evaluate your sources. So you need to check if they have citations. You know what citations are? Yeah? What's that? Awards. Awards? Like, that's one form of citation. But like in a paper or a book, they will cite the... There we go. Start again. All right, good. So citations are the sources that you got the information from. All right, so you cite a source, and that becomes a citation. Good. Cite the sources you plan to use. Write down the author's name, the article title, or the website. So you can keep a big list. You can keep it on your computer, Your citation sources, just keep putting them in there. Boom, boom, boom. And then you can go back to them later. All right? It helps you stay organized. All right? It's very important to cite the sources. Maybe, especially if you're going to another country, like the US or anything like this, at the end of your presentation, you should cite where you got all the information from. Because there's plagiarism. You know what plagiarism is? It's like stealing other people's ideas and pretending it's your own. So if you use somebody's idea, give them credit. It's really important. If not, it makes you look very unprofessional. I'll write the presentation and using all sources. So now we're going to go to the writing. You go back to each source, each person that you thought had a good idea that you can use in your presentation, and find the information you want to use. So you kept a list of all the sources, like the website address, while you're researching, right? You're doing all this researching, and you can't just keep open like 20 tabs in your computer. So you just copy the web address, put it on a list. Copy, make a list. And then later, when you are putting your presentation together, you can go back to your list of sources and then click and find more information, right? So it's nice to have a big list for each thing. All right? And then you write a short summary, 3 to 4 sentences of each site, each source. You make a summary. Like what's the information here? What's the information here? What's the information here? All right? Use a word processor, such as Google Docs or Microsoft Word. That's obvious. So easy, right? And have the book on article on your desk next to the computer. Yeah, so if you have books, you can stack the books up. If not, you can use digital sources here. And then keep a list here. Good. Once you read the source well enough to understand the main ideas, write a few sentences in the document to create the summary. All right, so you make a summary of each source. You just review the source, make a summary. Simple. This seems more complicated than what it is. It's just really simple. Yeah. Bless you. Type out the citation information about the source with the summary you have. So you have the citation information, author, book name, citation information. Cite your sources. Write one more sentence where you say why you chose that information and where it will go in your presentation. So you have the information, you have the source. You want to say why you chose it. How is it a supporting idea of your main idea, right? How is it going to help you? And where will it go? Will it go in your introduction? Is it like a really big, exciting, like statistic that you're going to use? Or will it go in the body? Or will it go in the conclusion? Introduction, body, conclusion, right? Pick a place. Plan in advance where each source will go will allow you to remember where to put it. So you have your citation of sources, you have a summary of each source. This book is about this article is about this. And then you decide where you're going to put it, right? So you have like a map you're drawing out. Wouldn't it be great if we really had all the time to do this every time? It takes a lot of time, very well organized. Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I make a presentation, I'm not always this organized, right? Yeah. If you find any good pictures, charts, or diagrams, make sure to save those. So it's nice to have a citation page, like one Word document, citation. One document, pictures and images. So you just keep, as you find images, just put them in there. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Save, paste, whatever. All right? It'll make your presentation more interesting. Engaging. What does engaging mean? And engaging. Engaging. Anyone know? What? Yeah, it makes it more, you can more connected. Like if it's engaging, people kind of listen and they sit forward, right? So you can engage them. So if you have an audience, they can be very passive and back in their seat. But if they feel like they're part of the presentation, they're engaged, right? They're active. So engaging is really important. All right, making your presentation. Shoot, look at the time. All right, I have to start going faster. Making your presentation. Open a new presentation. Oh, actually, let's stop here. Whoa, stop. Anyway, we're gonna stop there, all right? And then we'll start with. All right, so let's start where we left off. All right, so we're talking about making your presentation week 2.
And as soon as this turns on, we'll go forward. Oh, there it is.
It's warming up.
I shouldn't have turned it off.
Are you guys taking any other offline classes today?
No?
no.
No?
Do you take any other classes these days?
No? Do you have, do student council get together to study?
No.
No?
Just a meeting
Just to meet?
today.
Alright. Just to say hi?
With
Eating.
good food.
With good food?
Yes.
That's the best way to say hi. Alright, let's start. Making a presentation. Open a new presentation in PowerPoint and have the document with your summaries open in the background. So you have to have two documents open. You have your citations, right? The sources. Citation is the source, the address, the author. Then a summary, what the source is about, why you want to use it, and where you want to use it. And then you have your PowerPoint, the application PowerPoint or a Prezi or whatever. You have that open. So you can use these sources, put them right into your presentation as you make it, right? Choose a nice background design, create a title slide. This background design really sucks, but it was quick, so I made it quicker. So yeah, title slide will be a little more interesting than the rest of your PowerPoint, right? It's the thing they're gonna see for the longest before your presentation starts. Remember to make sure you have a clear title. Hello! Oh, you brought a friend. Jill, are you selling your lecture notes? How much are they? He made really good lecture notes. If you pay him, he'll give them to you. Remember to make sure you have a clear title that tells what the presentation is about and other important information, your main thing. So on your title page, the title should help the audience know what your presentation is about, or make them really curious about what your presentation is. So you have the title, and always down at the bottom, make sure you have your name, maybe where you work, if that's important. All right? So you need to have your name and the title there, because people are going to look at that for a long time when they come in, as they sit down. All right? The date. I don't know if you need the date, but if you want, you can put it there. I think your name is important. Good. Introduction. Include background information and sources. So if you're going to use lots of sources, you can put those in your introduction, right? If you did a good job preparing your summaries, so you have your citation, summary, if you did a good job doing that beforehand, you can just copy and paste right into the PowerPoint, you know? Because it'll be the most interesting information. Because when you make a PowerPoint, it should be very simple, not lots of text. Like this PowerPoint today is terrible, right? It's terrible. So, but if you give a presentation, it should be very simple. Good. Main body. Introduction, main body. Copy and paste your summaries. You may need to add a few words to tie the ideas together. So you have summary, summary, summary. To make transition from one summary to the next summary, you might have to add a few transition words, all right? But if your summaries are good, you just copy, paste, copy, paste. But you want to have your ideas to be coherent and flow. So you might help that flow by writing a few extra things. Good. You don't have to use complete sentences. So this could be a question on the midterm. True or false? You have to use complete sentences in a presentation. Is that true or false? False. You don't have to. That's a midterm type of question. Maybe. All right. Or it might be on the quiz. You can use bullet points instead and only include the very most important information, ideas of the presentation. Yeah, if there are bullet points, what are bullet points? Yeah, yeah, bullet points. If it's a bullet point, then you feel free to not use complete sentences, all right? It's actually usually best if you don't use complete sentences. I did a bad job. No, there's lots of information here. So this is an informative presentation. Good. You can tell other people, you can tell the other information as you're presenting. Yeah. So your PowerPoint should be very simple, and it should just be a starting point for the information. So instead of writing a full sentence, you can just write the main idea, and then when you speak, you
you can speak the full sentence. The worst thing is if you write out your whole presentation here, like I'm doing now, people will just read it and they'll stop listening to you, you know? And then your presentation becomes boring. Hi, who's there? Hey. He comes here every weekend now, right? All right, good. Don't interrupt in the middle of your presentation and go to the door. That's a bad idea too. You can say long things, include lots of information, just avoid putting it on your slides. Yeah, in your presentation, you can give a really long explanation. That's okay. You give it when you speak, but don't write it here. If you have a long explanation here, it destroys your presentation. All right? Because this isn't your presentation, it's a support, right? It's an aid, a visual aid. Good. Add visual aids if needed. What are visual aids? What's a visual aid? What? A graph, yeah, a graph. A graph is a visual aid. A picture, right? A graph, a chart, visual aids. A plus right there. All right, wrapping up. What's wrapping up mean? The summary, yeah, you wrap things up, you finish things up, you summarize, right? And where does wrapping up go? Is it usually an introduction, the body, or the conclusion? Conclusion, yeah, right? Create a reference slide and make sure all your images are cited. Yeah, so you have a reference slide and you cite your images. Because a lot of images you take online, from online, other people made those images, right? So you have to cite them, give a citation. Add a slide at the end with discussion questions if your presentation needs them. So yeah, you can have like the very final, the end of your presentation, just write a few questions for the audience to talk about, right? At the end. Tips from Peter Sewer, coming up with good questions for leading a class discussion. So these are his tips. This might be a midterm question. What are one of the tips? Okay, so this is the type of thing that would be on the midterm. Don't ask yes or no questions or questions with obvious answers. Why is a yes or no question bad for discussion? Yes, no. Why is that bad for discussion? Why? Why is yes or no questions bad?
Too simple.
Too simple. Yeah. So, do you like ice cream? Yes. Good. It's over, right? Yeah. You have to ask more interesting questions that aren't yes or no, right? That lead to more discussion. Good. That's simple. Don't try to ask a question from your conclusion section. So this is a little, that's a little complicated. But yeah, you don't ask a question from the conclusion section. It's the reason you should be from the main body, maybe, or the information covered there, right? Be creative. Do something different. Make it interesting. Good tips. But be creative. I always hate that advice. It's like, be funny. But how? How do I be creative? How do I be funny? That's kind of hard. All right. Presentations and technology, week 3. We made it. All right? But before we go, these tips from week 2 might be on the quiz or midterm. Maybe. Week 3. It's probably good. It'll keep you awake. All right. How does technology benefit a presenter? Anybody? How does technology benefit a presenter? Anyone? How does it help or aid?
It's happy to engage the audience.
Yeah, it helps to engage the audience. What else? Yeah, it helps communicate with the audience. It makes things easier to understand through visual aids, charts, graphs, through main ideas. So it's a form of communication. It's an aid, technology. Good. What are the cons of technology? What? Yeah, people become dependent on the technology. And this becomes a presentation. She's getting an A. I know it already. A plus, I think, maybe, right? Yeah, people become dependent on the technology, and then this becomes a presentation and not this, right? And also, AI could maybe take over the world and kill humans. It's a net con of technology. All right, choosing a platform. What is a platform? Somebody asked on the Q&A board, they're like, Professor, what does platform mean? Anybody remember? What does platform mean? Platform. What? Yeah, it's an application, an app. So PowerPoint, we're using right now, as a platform, right? Good.
9 different platforms, all right? For a platform, you know the Pyeongseong? Is that what it is? Pyeongseong? Pyeongseong. You know Korean Pyeongseong? You sit outside? That's a platform. So in construction, those are platforms. So think of these applications as things that help you put things up. You know? So it's up off the ground. It helps you present your thing. So that's where the word platform came from. So, all right. 9 different platforms, choosing a platform. 4 tips. Here's another one that might be on the midterm. 4 tips for giving a successful and effective presentation. How to be prepared to present with technology. So preparation. How does technology benefit a presenter? It can make information easier to understand, right? Use charts, display data. It can reduce the distance between the presenter and the audience. You can Skype and screen share to save the presentation. This type of thing might be on the midterm. How does technology benefit presentations, right? You can make the presentation come to life and be more engaging. There's that word again, engaging, right? It can make the presentation reusable and shareable, right? So if you have technology, you can share your presentation. I just sent her an email with this PPT. I just sent it to her right now. She can look at it later, right? So you can share it. And you can use it again. What are the cons of technology? We talked about poor or ineffective. If you don't use it well, it's bad. The colors could be extreme, the font distracting, so it could actually take away from the presentation instead of support, right? If it's done poorly. Become dependent on technology, right? Technology can be unreliable. Yeah, computers break down. You have to wait for the projector to turn on. Your USB is broken, you know? Choosing a platform. Things to consider when choosing a platform. Who is the presentation for? Your audience. Is it for a meeting or class? All right? What's the context? The context. Your boss or professor may have a preferred platform. Yeah, maybe your boss loves PPT and she hates Prezi. I hate Prezi, those are for kids. Then don't use Prezi, all right? Are you presenting at a conference or a host institution? Just think about who and where you're presenting, right? What you're most comfortable with. That's the thing too. A lot of people try to use new platforms that they're not comfortable with, and then you're gonna fail unless you have lots of time to practice. Use what you're comfortable with, or if you have the luxury of time, you can learn something new, right? What would be the most effective for you? What's the most effective is probably what you're comfortable with, right? Okay, 9 different platforms. Does anybody remember what some of those are? PowerPoint, I'm using it right now. What else? Google what?
Google Slides.
Yeah, what else? Keynote, what else? Prezi, good, what else? So that might be on the midterm. This might be a question that's on the midterm or on the quiz. Like, it'd be like, what is, not Microsoft PowerPoint, because that's too easy, but what is Prezi? Oh, it's a platform for presentation. Okay. PowerPoint is user-friendly. What does user-friendly mean? Yeah, it's easy to use, all right? And it's fairly straightforward, all right? It's not complicated, easy to use. Templates versus creating from scratch. And PowerPoint has a lot of templates. Like this template I'm using, which is awful. I didn't make it, I just said, okay, I'll use this, boom, 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 boom. So you can do it quickly, right? Participle, what's participle? You guys remember? I'll give you a hint, it has the word poll in it. Poll, what's a poll? What's that? A survey, yeah, you can do a survey in real time. So you have a present PowerPoint and you give it, people in the audience to start taking the survey, right? You do a survey, really cool. Google Slides, which you talked about, similar to PowerPoint, but it's user-friendly and templates are provided. So it's user-friendly, what's that mean? User-friendly, you said it. Easy, so it's easy, all right? And templates are the design that's already there. When you want to insert an image, it brings you straight to Google. If you want to do a video, it takes you straight to YouTube, right? Yeah. It's easy to collaborate. Multiple people can work on the same presentation at the same time. So that's what makes this different than PowerPoint. PowerPoint, you work alone. With Google Slides, you can work as a group, which is really weird. Have you guys used Google Docs before?
Yeah.
Or Google Slides? It's crazy, like you'll be typing here, and then someone else is typing above and changing it. Like actually, I've got, Professor Ulrich, we worked on lecture notes together, and we get in fights where she's like erasing what I'm writing, and it's complicated. It's kind of fun, but it's a really weird experience the first time you do it. It's really weird. All right. Keynote. What's Keynote? It's a platform, right, for your presentation. Yeah. So it's simpler than those of PowerPoint and Google Slides. So it's simpler. So you have PowerPoint alone, Google Slides together, Keynote simpler, right? Something unique, a unique feature, an aspect, okay, a design feature is the ability to not only add images and videos, but also music. So Keynote makes it easy to add music. I should have put music in this presentation, huh? Sorry guys. That would have been interesting. There are also different aspect ratios available through this program. The aspect ratio is basically the ratio of height to width of the screen. So you can change the design a little bit, so it makes it easier. It makes it a little more unique, all right? Good. This is really cool too, because you can check it on your iPhone and your iPad, right? And you can edit and stuff. Like when I'm looking at PowerPoint, when I was on the subway over this morning, I was looking at this PowerPoint just to make sure to go through it. I can't edit from my phone, which is really frustrating. I can only look at it, right? But with this Keynote, you can edit on your phone, you can edit on your iPad, so you can be like standing on the subway and just editing at the same time. Kind of cool. It can be exported at HTML, so with just a few clicks, you can create a hassle-free website. Good. All right. Prezi. How is Prezi different than PowerPoint? Anyone know?
It's online.
It's online. How? What else?
It's not for free.
Yeah. Oh, it's not for free, right? Isn't there a student one that's free? I don't know. Yeah, it's not for free. What else? How is the design different than PowerPoint? Has anyone used Prezi before? Nobody? Have you used it? Anyone? No?
It's
No?
more complicated.
I've heard it's easier. I think it's more complicated because I always use PowerPoint. But I know other people who are like really like Prezi. They say it's easier. I think the big difference between PowerPoint and Prezi is the way that Prezi tells like a story, right? Because it has the zoom in feature and then movement, zoom in, movement. But it can be fun, like if you're doing like a class or something, but it looks a little less professional, right? It's more casual. So in a formal setting, you want to stick with Keynote, PowerPoint, or Google Slides, all right? So just think of Prezi as a little more playful and fun, lots of fun images, good for telling stories, but informal, a little slightly more informal. Maybe it's just because I hate Prezi. Every time I see, I don't hate Prezi, I hate Prezi. It annoys me. Like watching, like, oh my gosh, why are you wasting my time zooming in and zooming out? Like, just tell me. Yeah, I hate it. But maybe it's because I don't use it. Okay, so you can create a free account, but if you want the really good stuff, you have to pay for it. It's true. It can be fun, a lot of zooming in and out. That's what I just said. Okay, what is this? More sophisticated and professional. So think of Prezi down here, really informal, and this is probably a lot more formal, all right? A little more sophisticated. What does sophisticated mean? Complicated? Yeah, maybe. If you're taking living English, it's in one of the lectures. Sophisticated. Yeah, it just means a little more higher quality, and it seems a little more educated and refined, which can often be complicated. All right. It improves impressive and stunning presentations. All right, so it's just things that are really high quality. All right, they're really organized by categories such as marketing, proposals, and education. That's one nice thing. When you're doing templates here, they're organized beforehand. So you go in and think, oh, I'm doing a marketing thing, I'm doing an education thing, and they're all different based on your presentation. So it makes your work easier. When you open up PowerPoint, you're just like, I hate this design, I hate this design, I hate this design. But here, it'll just go, oh, marketing. You can put your graphs in really easy, all right? It's good. You have to use a buck for each picture, right? Yeah, each picture costs $1. That's down. Unless your company's paying for this, don't use it. All right, good. These are helpful for education. So those of you who work in like academies or are teachers, you might want to use this. Powtoon. You guys know this one? No? All right. Great for using animated presentations and videos. For animation, go to this. All right. It's not great for a professional setting, similar to Prezi, but it's really good for animation. Emaze. You guys remember Emaze? We'll go through these quickly. You can incorporate 3D components, all right? So it's a 3D into your visual aids, which is pretty cool. Spin around, 3D. If you have visual learners in your classroom, so this is good for classroom settings, all right? Educational. I never know how to say this. Telagni? What? Telagni? There's like 4 different ways that people pronounce this. Okay, you can create animated characters that can look like you or completely different. So you can make animated characters, which is kind of fun, right? For education, it's fun. If you have students and then you have an animation of yourself over there, they're like, oh, it's fun, right? Consider your audience. Consider your audience. Yeah, it's good to change up the classroom, make your classroom more dynamic and exciting. But if you're teaching young kids, only use it a little bit. Please don't use like projectors and TVs when teaching children. It ruins it. It makes them want to sleep. All right? It should be more exciting. Haiku. What's a haiku? Haiku. Does anyone know what haiku is? It comes from Japan. Haiku is a poem. It's a type of poem. A haiku is a poem style. It's 7 syllables, 757, right? I think it's a poem style. It's a type of poetry. And it's a very simple, I think it's 7 syllables, 757. Oh, 575? No, it's 575. So 5 syllables, you know? Like, he won the race today. That's 5 syllables. He won the race today. So it's 575. The reason this name is Haiku Deck, haiku is very simple and elegant, all right? It's very simple. You should try making some haiku poems, they're fun. All right, it produces clean, what does clean mean?
Neat. Tidy.
Yeah, tidy. Not like you took a shower, no. Here it just means that it's very tidy, right? A nice design. If you have a clean presentation, it means that it's designed well. It's very smooth. It looks very professional, right? And it's user-friendly, easy to use. Okay, 4 tips. Anything that says 4 tips or 3 tips will be on the midterm, maybe, right? Might be on the midterm. Know your audience. Why are they attending your presentation? Every week we talk about knowing your audience. It must be important, all right? This allows you to know how much or how little detail to put into your presentation. If you're talking to experts, you don't need to include a lot of background information in detail. They already know this information, right? Good. Stay organized. That's another tip. Give a brief outline of your presentation in the introduction. So when you're introducing your presentation, say, today I'm going to talk about this, and this. All right? So they know what's coming. It helps your audience keep organized, get organized in their head, right? Good. The body of your presentation should meet the objectives of your presentation. So the body, the main thing, introduction, body, the body should meet all of your objectives. What is an objective? What? A goal. Oh, I think was that 4 in a row? Good. Yeah, it's a goal. Yeah, it's your goal. What you want to do. So the body of the presentation is where you put all the stuff you want to do. The things that, your ideas that you want to present, right? Good. The conclusion should tie everything together. Introduction, body, conclusion, all right? Should tie everything together, should summarize, wrap it up. Remember to not stay in one section for too long. Your audience doesn't need every single detail. Yeah, this is important too. So if you're writing a paper, like what's going to be the longest part of your presentation? Your introduction, your body, or your conclusion? What's the longest part? Yeah, the body's probably going to be the longest, but you can use your introduction to introduce a lot of information, and you can use your conclusion to wrap things up.
So if you keep your introduction and conclusion specifically about the same length, it's a good idea. If you have a really long introduction, a short body, and a short conclusion, probably not so good, right? Good. Make sure I just jump to? Yeah. Make sure your visuals support your presentation and you don't rely on them. Every week, I think it says this. Your visuals support your presentation. Should not be your main event, right? It's not your main event. It can be, practice, if possible, do it with an audience. This is another thing. If you have a really good friend, it's great because you can torture your friend by making them watch your presentation. Even if you have children, you can do it for your kids. And yeah, just having a person there is really good because when someone's there, it makes you start your presentation and usually go to the end, right? But when someone's not there, you will practice alone, but then you'll be stopping, like, oh, I need to change that. And then you just never practice from beginning to end, all right? So an audience really helps, whoever it is. It can be like even a child will help, all right? Because it gives you a similar situation to a real presentation, right? So audience, please use an audience. Make eye contact with the audience and use confident body language. We're going to be talking a lot about body language in this class later, right? But eye contact is key, right? Because the eyes are the ways that people communicate, right? Yeah, good. Eye contact. And then you can see if people are sleeping too. And then you can kind of walk over by them. Like, she's been really tired ever since she's been here. What did you say, play? All right. Practice with your technology. So practice so you don't have problems with technology. All right? Same thing every week. Practice, know your audience. Practice, know your audience. How to be prepared to present with technology. How do you prepare with tech? You know? Let's see. Oh yeah, so know what is available. Know that there's a projector, a screen, a computer. That's easy. It's really easy stuff, right? The content in this class. I think you guys, if you go through this review and write down all like the 3 tips, the 4 tips, the 6 tips, you're gonna be just fine in the midterm. Yeah. Between you and me, and the video there, if you're taking TESOL or TET, a technology, teaching English technology, I'd spend more time studying for that than this class. But study for this class. Study for this class. It's very important to study, but spend more time with that. Because those classes are a little more difficult. There's so much terminology, right? So many new vocabulary words. Okay, make sure you know what account the computer that logged into. Yeah, so if you're having an account, if you're using Prezi and stuff, you gotta log in beforehand. You can come early if you're giving a presentation and you're using technology. Come early so you can set up all the technology beforehand. Have at least 2 copies of the presentation online and one on a USB drive. So have one on the USB, maybe email one to yourself. This is the type of thing that could be on a midterm as a true or false question. Maybe. All right, creating visuals and making speaker notes. Week 4, we have 20 minutes to do 2 weeks. All right, week 5 is very short. All right, 2 don'ts when preparing presentation material. Anyone know? What are the 2 don'ts? Things that you do not do. That could be on the midterm. That could be on the quiz. Anything. What are 2 things you should not do? Yes, sir. Do you know? How good are your lecture notes?
Don't put too much text on the slide.
Don't put too much text. You guys might want to buy his lecture notes. They seem to be really good. Yeah. Don't, first we'll cover what's called speaker notes, 6 tips from Jay. Thanks, Jay. Agenda slides, handouts, copyright laws. That's what we're talking about week 4. 2 don'ts, don't put too much text on the slides. He was right. Yeah. Don't put too much text on the slides. Another one, don't simply read the information. Right now, I'm just reading the information, so I'm bad. I'm terrible. I have a terrible PowerPoint with too much text, and I'm reading the PowerPoint, right? But this is a review class. It's a very special type of presentation. I'm terrible. Anyway, so those are 2 don'ts. Too much text and then reading the text, all right? Because yeah, that's the thing, because eye contact is so important. If you're reading the text the whole time, or you're reading the text like this, and there's lots of it, if there's lots of text, text means words, right? It's text. If
There's lots of text, your audience is going to be reading that, so they're not looking at you, right? And if you're reading that, you're not looking at them. So no text, no reading. Good. Use speaker notes. What are speaker notes? Anyone? Speaker notes. Are they for speakers? What are speaker notes? What?
It's for yourself.
Oh. Yeah, you're the speaker, the presenter. So you make notes for yourself. And you can do it like color coordinated, it's really nice. I like to make get the highlighter pack that has like the pink, green, yellow, red, and then you just like, okay, pink is really important, yellow is supporting ideas, you just lay it there for you. It's really nice. Cheat, look down, good. They're only visible to the presenter, only you see them, right? Prof says PowerPoint goes. Oh yeah, so yeah, it's a small box. If you use speaker notes here, and I'm using them here, only I can see them, right? You can put it in PowerPoint. You can sneak it in so that you can actually, instead of a piece of paper, you can actually put it in this PowerPoint where the audience sees one PowerPoint, but you see a different PowerPoint, right? So you can see two different things, and you can write notes. Like, oh, don't forget to laugh or smile. Make eye contact. Oh, you make eye contact. Speaker notes. You can put anything you want in the speaker notes. They're for you. Do whatever you want. But don't do too much. Because if you're sitting there reading your speaker notes, it's going to look bad. There should just be hints and reminders, all right? Or maybe a quote. If you want to use a quote in your speech, because your presentation, you should have it memorized, right? But if you want to use a quote, you can't memorize it, you can put it in your speaker notes, right? You can type out exactly what you want to say about each slide. Rehearsing. You should rehearse. What does rehearse mean?
Practice.
Yeah, rehearse is just a fancy word for practice. Rehearse comes from like the theater, right? Or when they do theater or movies, they rehearse the scene before. So practice, which is similar to a presentation. It's similar to theater or movies because you have to have a beginning, middle, and end, and you're performing in front of people. It is a type of performance, right? And you must entertain and engage your audience. All right? It will help you be free from speaker notes. Honestly, you put your speaker notes here or here, and you rehearse or practice a bunch, you probably don't need this when you actually do your presentation. But it's there and it makes you feel comfortable, right? Like, okay, I can do this, right? It helps be less nervous. Yeah, you know your material lines. It'll help you relax. At a glance formatting. What does that mean, at a glance? What's a glance? What? Yeah, quick look. Perfect. Good definition. You work for a dictionary? That's good. At a glance is a quick look, to look at quickly, you know? So at a glance formatting is a formatting that you can look at very quickly, right? So a font size. What's the font size? Yeah, the size of the text, right? So you want to use your font size quickly. Good. This seems kind of obvious, but I've seen really bad presentations where people don't know this. They have like tiny little font. Actually, this presentation is bad too, because a lot of the font's really small. So I made an example of what not to do in a presentation, all right? So look at this. You don't even have to study. Just look at this presentation and do every answer is the opposite of this, all right? Good. Also, know how much you can memorize. If you can't memorize, you need more lecture notes, right? Good. Consider your circumstances. If you don't have much time to prepare, give yourself more notes. Less time, more notes. More time, less notes, right? You get more time to rehearse. 6 tips from Jay Miller. Another thing you could be on the midterm. All right. For the first slide, select the important point. First slide, important point you want your audience to know about your first topic. So you have the title page with the title and your name, but then the first slide is the important point that you want to communicate to your audience, right? Put these points into your speaker notes in an outline format. So you have all the important points or ideas, first, second, third, fourth, in your speaker notes. Good. Build from these points, adding a few details. So you have your structure here, and then you just add details. Detail. But don't put too much information. Too much information, you're going to be reading it. All right? Agenda slides. Yeah. Agenda slides. Remember to avoid bullet point lists. Make the agenda interesting for the sake of the audience. So the agenda means what will happen, right? So if it's just bullet points, a lot of people think that's kind of boring. It's boring, not fun. We can do it by making a series of slides and create a timeline. With the timeline, give a brief overview of each topic. What's the difference? What's the timeline? A schedule, time, right? And then line. So first, second, third, fourth. Agenda points, bullet points is just like this. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 here. But if you do a timeline, it would be like 1 and then a new slide. 2, a new slide. 3, a new slide. So it's a little more active than having a big list of information. All right? Each slide has a box with a number inside it. And the box varies depending on how you're spinning on time on each topic. So what they're saying here is if you do agenda slides, first, second, third, fourth, if the first thing you're going to talk about, the agenda is you tell your audience, we're going to talk about this today. First, we're going to talk about this. Second, we're going to talk about this. Third, we're going to talk about this. If the second and third thing you're going to talk about, you're going to spend more time there, the numbers and the slides, you might want to make them bigger. So the audience knows, oh, this is important, we'll spend more time there. And if you spend less time on one thing, you make the numbers smaller, right? Bigger and smaller. The advantages of a timeline format. This is the type of thing that could be on the midterm. What are the advantages of using a timeline format? More visually engaging. The speaker goes through them one step at a time. Because if you have bullet points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's all there one time. But if you do a timeline, it's first this, and then next slide this, next slide this. So you can do it one at a time, right? There is much less text. So each slide has less words. So this is what makes timeline formatting a little better, advantageous. The audience can't be reading the agenda instead of paying attention to you. Yeah, if you have a bullet point of your agenda, what you will do, the audience just reads it. But if you do a timeline, you show them one at a time, they won't be reading ahead. They'll be listening to you, giving details about each thing. Good? The audience know how the time will be spent. That's true. It gives the audience information about how it will be spent. What? Question? What?
Oh, we were talking about that.
Oh yeah? No questions? Why doesn't anyone have any questions? Because it's so easy, right? It's gonna be easy. No stress. Alright, easy. Handouts. Documents created to complete your presentation, right? So these are handouts we're giving out. You want to kill a bunch of trees and ruin the planet? Use handouts. And I will judge you. I will judge you. It's something people can take home after the presentation. This is one good thing. Oh shoot. The help is over here. Hello. Then remember what you talked about. That's one good thing. If you're doing a sales presentation, that might be a good time to use a handout because the people can take it with them, right? But if you're giving a presentation like this and you print out your PowerPoint like they do in the colloquiums, I hate them for doing that. It's really bad for the environment. You can just email this to everyone. They can pop it open on their computer, right? So yeah, only for sales. Required, not required, depending on circumstances. Yeah, if someone invites you to give a presentation, you might have to give handouts. All right, formats for handouts. We talked about this week before. We have 8 minutes to do this in 3-5. Option 1, you see, I didn't practice this presentation. That's why I'm bad for time. But I know as soon as I go over, like 12 o'clock, you're gonna hate me. So I will go very quickly, all right? Because you'll judge me. Ugh. Don't go over time. All right, Google Slides, presenting PowerPoint. They all are options for handouts. They'll help you, right? Or you can create them yourself. I recommend creating your own handouts because if you give your PowerPoint to someone, that's terrible. So much paper and it's nothing new. I think if your handout is different than here, maybe your handout should be like your main points, you know? All right. But you need to have the exact title of your presentation, your email address, your contact information. If you give a handout, this might be a midterm question or a quiz question. What information do you have to have on a handout? You need to have the title of your presentation, and your contact information. Good. And your company. Your affiliation just means your company. All right. For complex presentations, a handout should include your quotations from foreign languages. If you're giving a presentation and you're talking about like Japanese or Chinese and you use a quote, put those in the handout, all right? Because it's hard for people who aren't native speakers to remember it. So you foreign languages, put them in the handout. A glossary of technical terms. If you're giving an informative presentation, a glossary is like a mini dictionary, right? So it's just a vocabulary definition. That's important, all right? A list of names or dates you mentioned. So in your presentation, if you're gonna mention dates, like the Korean War was this, and then in 1985 this happened, put those dates in the event. So dates are really good to put in a handout. Dates, foreign languages, glossary of terms, right? A chronology, I can't speak, chronology or map or graph. So if you have a graph here, you might want to put it in your handout, right? So people can look at it up close. Or a chronology, a first, second, third, fourth, you know? Images that can be your backup in case your PowerPoint, yeah. So if your PowerPoint is destroyed, you can use your handout to have all the images, which is a good. A bibliography with the items directly relevant to your topic, all right? So that's like the information where you got your citations from, right? Copyright laws. What are copyright laws? What? Yeah, so it's if someone else has taken the picture, someone else has written, bye, good luck, written the book. If you steal it without giving them a citation, you might get in trouble. See, it's the law that protects people's creations from others using it for free, all right? So if I make something, and someone else takes it and uses it for free, they're breaking the copyright, right? Copyright. Yeah. All books have copyrights. Inventions have copyrights, right? So you can't take my invention and use it, right? This is how the laws are relevant in certain areas. I'm not going to go through this now because we don't have time. It just talks about copyright laws. There might be a question about the copyright laws on the midterm or quiz, but I doubt it. I don't think there will be. I don't think so. Maybe. Yeah. Copyright laws are helping. Good. Presentation skills. Week 5! We did it! And we have, what, 4 minutes? Is that right? 4 minutes? 4 minutes for 1 week. All right, good. This actually, week 5, for me, is where the class starts getting more interesting. Because week 1 to 4, we're just talking about making a presentation, how to do a presentation, which is good, because you want to have it very clear in your head. Introduction, body, conclusion, right? Supporting ideas, how to do it. But it took 4 weeks, so I like week 5 because it's more interesting of how to present, right? Verbal skills, right? What are verbal skills? Yeah, speaking. Verbal. Based on the words, phrases, and sentences that we speak. The things that come out of our mouth are verbal. Good. Asking questions. Paraphrasing information. What does paraphrasing information mean?
Explaining easily.
You are an amazing English speaker. Yeah, that's a really hard word. Yeah, you make it easier. So say she tells me a story, and you're like, what? What's that story about? Like, okay, the story is she bought coffee and spilled it on herself. That's it, you know? So I make the story easier to understand. You paraphrase, right? So you make it easier. Making comments, referencing someone else or referring back to something. So you reference other things, right? This is all verbal. Group discussions, expressing different points of view, and summarizing. What's summarizing? What is summarizing? Wrap up. Make it all come together, right? It's a wrap up at the end. You summarize your ideas. Where would you summarize in a presentation? Conclusion. Ding. Good. Non-verbal. What does non-verbal mean? No, what does nonverbal mean? What does it mean? Verbal means words and spoken. Nonverbal means what? Yeah, things that you do without your voice, right? Like actions. Oh, that's my computer. Yeah, good, nonverbal. Non-word sounds and other silent messages. Non-word sounds, I think if it's a sound, it's verbal. That's me. But here they say non-word sounds in the lecture. Silent messages that are understood include gestures. This is gestures, right? Body language. If I'm closed, that's one thing. If I'm open, this is body language, right? If I'm open, it's good because I feel like we're here. But if I'm sitting here talking to you like this, yeah, it's closed up. I'm not good at that. Open body language, right? Eye contact. This is all non-verbal. Eye contact. Sounds to be very nice. Eye contact. All right, good. She has a very studious look here with the pin. That's good. That's non-verbal. Good. Smiling, frowning, and your stance. What is stance? Yes! You are a dictionary. She's a dictionary. Yeah, so it's your standing position. It's how you stand, right? You can have a confident stance, you know, or you can have a not so confident stance, you know. It's all about your standing position. Good. Prominence. Someone asked me about prominence today, and I didn't get a chance to answer. If you look on the Q&A board, someone asked a question, Professor, what's prominence? So, do you guys know what prominence is? It's a hard idea. It's not a hard idea, it's an easy thing. Prominence in speaking is just making something stand out. So if I say, the dog won the race. Won, I give prominence to it. But usually what you do is you give prominence to an idea, or maybe a phrase, sometimes a word or a phrase or an idea. Like I've really given prominence to like the conclusion here. I mean the outline of the presentation. Introduction, body, conclusion are the most important parts of a presentation. So introduction, body, and conclusion, I gave prominence to it. You give it focus. You do it with volume and pitch, and sometimes a pause before and after. All right, when you say the word, the phrase, or the idea. So to give prominence to something is to make it stand out and seem important. All right? Good. Emphasize. Wow, you speak English well. That's perfect. Yes, emphasize, to emphasize. They may give a slight from culture, but overall or universal. Yeah, so a lot of the nonverbal communication is different from culture to culture, but if you have a confident stance in Korea, probably going to be the same in Australia, right? So most of the nonverbal stuff is similar in most countries. Like if you're presenting in Europe, it's probably going to be similar. Good. Questions to ask when practicing verbal and nonverbal skills. What's a question you should ask? Anyone? One question. What should you ask? Oh shoot, I'm 1 minute over. Question. For the verbal skills, you can ask, am I using my words effectively? Or am I picking good words? That's what you ask yourself. Do I pick good words? For the nonverbal skills, am I using too many or too little hand gestures? Am I doing this all the time? Or am I just stuck here like this, not moving? All right, you need a balance. And you should practice your gestures when you practice your presentation, right? You practice your speech, you practice your technology, and you practice your body movements together, right? And there's a bunch of questions there that you can read. I'll send you guys this PowerPoint. Good. 7 steps to developing verbal nonverbal skills. Look over these 7 steps. They might be on the midterm. 7 steps, 3 tips, 4 tips. Identifying strategies. Strategies are methods of doing something, right? Identifying the topic focus, same as before. Organizing, planning. All throughout this course, lesson 1 to 4, organize, plan, right? Practice. Prepare visual and other materials. Same thing. Practicing. Delivering. What is delivering? Delivering is the actual presentation. Right now, I'm delivering the presentation. So you deliver a presentation. Oh, what are you doing today? Oh, I have to deliver a presentation, blah, blah, blah. All right? And then evaluate. Evaluating is really important because it'll help you become a better presenter. After you finish your presentation, you sit down and be like, okay, that sucked. The PowerPoint had too much text. I kept reading it. That sucked. All right, next time you have to do more. All right? So evaluate yourself. It will help you become a better presenter. Good. 3 minutes over. Thank you and good luck. All right. Do you guys have any questions? If you guys have